call this meeting to order.
If you would, I'd like to stand with me, address the flag, and let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Use the mic pad. Turn that button on.
Well, all right, I think, here we go. All right. So roll call. Pioneer Town, Michelle. You did, sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, we don't do this very.
Michelle Myers. Here. Yucca Mesa, Tom Zeder.
Here.
Landers, Dawn Johnson. Here. Joshua Tree, Mark Lundquist is excused absent. Flamingo Heights is vacant. Desert Heights, Pat Flanagan.
Here.
Wonder Valley, Teresa Seitz, she has an excused absence. Morongo Valley, Gail Swearitt. Here. Copper Mountain Mesa, Mary Helen Tuttle. Here.
Okay, she's done.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second it.
All those?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is adopted. And now we have approval of the May 8th minutes. Would somebody like to?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Call for public comment. At this time, anyone may comment on items not on the agenda that are of interest to the public and within the jurisdiction of the MAC. The MAC is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Comment may be offered on items on the agenda when those items come up for discussion or action. A limit of 3 minutes per item and 3 minutes per comment may be imposed. In all cases, if you wish to speak, please submit a registration card to the secretary and proceed to the podium when recognized by the chair. You can send it to me. Speakers should address the MAC as a whole. Comments to individual delegates and or staff are not appropriate for this venue. So I don't see any. Do we have anybody who has? Well then, I see no public comments tonight.
I'm going to bitch about this. There's really nothing on the agenda.
There was a bitch about nothing on the agenda, but he did not hand in an official registration card, so we don't have to do that. Yes, he certainly is. Okay, so now we have our safety reports, and we will start out with CAL FIRE. CAL or county?
County.
County, okay. See, I just have to take a lot of, Mike Snow, Battalion Chief.
Yeah, my CAL FIRE associates aren't even here to pick on, so I can't even pick on them for that one. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the MAC. Mike Snow, San Bernardino County Fire Department Battalion Chief. Before I give you the monthly stats, I just wanted to share with the audience here some things that are coming down the pike. Some of you may have heard the rumors that we're closing the Pioneer Town Fire Station, Landers Fire Station, Wonder Valley Fire Station, and a couple others out here. The word closure is a little harsh. To start with, the Wonder Valley Fire Station is being reviewed with regards to its budgetary operations and to whether or not they're going to be able to sustain services out there. But that is currently under review of the Board of County Supervisors right now, and there's not been any definitive recommendations as of yet whether or not that station will remain where it's at or be closed down or moved. The other concern that we have out there is a water safety issue for the firefighters. some of the well water out there has been tested as not being safe enough for consumption, and there's an issue as well as far as water absorption through the skin and contamination. So even if that facility stays in place and continues to operate, they're going to have to address the water quality out there at that community facility and make it safe for the firefighters to continue their operation out there. So Wonder Valley, again, that's on, it's on the radar. It's currently being reviewed by our superiors and the County Board of Supervisors. So there's not been any definitive answer with that facility as of yet. With regard to Pioneer Town, our Landers station, and then also our station out in Johnson Valley. Over the past several years, we have seen a dramatic fall off in the interest of qualified and capable pay call firefighters. And as a matter of fact, we've only had one in the community of Pioneer Town for the last 10 years. Our most recent volunteer out in Johnson Valley has decided to retire after serving that community for a great number of years. That was John Jones. And then we have only had a very sparse few individuals available out of the Landers facility. And the primary reason for that is that, you know, our pay call firefighters, like most of us here in this room, have to rely on regular routine work and jobs in order to support themselves and their families. The pay call firefighter just doesn't have that capability from one call to the next to be paid a sufficient amount of money in order to provide that support for their family. So that makes the firefighter usually only available to us after hours during the week, or on weekends if they're available. And in most cases they're not, and that fire station remains unstaffed. We may have equipment in there, but that equipment doesn't do us any good unless there's somebody to respond it. So then it falls back to our full-time staffed facilities, which are Yucca Valley on the highway, Yucca Valley on Aberdeen, and then our Joshua Tree Station, which is the three closest to those communities that typically will respond to provide fire suppression and EMS services to those areas. Is it a longer haul to get folks up there to help out? Absolutely it is. But we suffer the same thing, unfortunately, with our co-provider over here, which is Morongo Basin Ambulance. They're often responding out of either Yucca Valley if they're in the area, or Joshua Tree, which is their primary base. And depending on call volume, they could be responding as far away as 20 miles. So with that, we're hoping to maybe address in the communities another program which is coming up, and it's called Fire Corps. And I've left some handout information over there on the table. And basically Fire Corps is an umbrella program that encompasses 4 other voluntary programs that citizens from 18 to 80, if they're in the physical condition that they want to get involved and volunteer in their communities, they can be active in programs such as CERT, which is our Community Emergency Response Teams. And going through that program, you learn a little bit about fire suppression, a little bit about first aid, search and rescue, the ICS system, and disaster psychology, as well as terrorism. And that program was first brought out and started for the sake of preparing the neighborhood individual and their family for disaster preparedness in the event that we have a large-scale earthquake or so on, so that they can be more self-sustained until the county, the state, or the federal government can bring in resources to help them out. And then we hope that that training, goes from one household to the next. But in that training, you're also capable of getting involved at the county level through what we call the Disaster Service Worker Program. And then you become a part of the volunteer organization that actually can respond locally to each community or outside of the community to another community to assist them with their disaster needs. And then that goes to the state program, which is the Disaster Corps program, and that's also explained in this handout, where you could get involved at a state level or statewide response to the need for assistance. Two other programs that are addressed in this is our Emergency Services Support Division, and that's helping out like our warehouse division and bringing out supplies to local facilities, staffing those facilities, getting those supplies out to the community as they would need to be disseminated. And then finally, we have a program that involves our emergency communication services. And that's where we look to get a hold of our amateur radio operators in the community, get them tied in with our communication system so that in the event that we lose communications through the local area here, we can reestablish those communications through ham radio operations and keep the emergency services going to those areas that need them. So if anybody, you know of anybody that has an interest in getting involved in the voluntary process with County Fire, please feel free to go to the website or pick up one of the handouts over there. We'll give you some information about what I just spoke about, the county website where you can go to sign up for that volunteer service and get involved. And that's what it's all about here in these remote communities, is being there for one another as your neighbors and friends and getting involved, and all of us together along with the first responders are the ones that are going to make the difference. So please read through that. All right. So with that, let me just give you a real brief report on our call responses for the month of May. Johnson Valley, we had one incident responded to, and that was for a traffic collision with unknown injury. Joshua Tree, we had a total of 143 responses. That's a big difference, right? 109 of those were for medical responses in the community, and those medical responses can range to a wide variety of need of assistance. Too many to list for you. In those responses, we had 3 structure fires, 2 vehicle fires, and a dumpster fire as well. Pioneer Town, we had a total of 5 responses. 2 of those were EMS related. We had 1 traffic accident that required extrication, and 2 traffic accidents that were of unknown injury at the time of the report. Yucca Mesa had a total of 36 responses. 24 of those were EMS related. 1 fire type unknown. And in total for the communities served, we had 296 responses for the month of May. And usually those responses get more and more as the summertime goes through because everybody's active. So unless I have any questions or comments, that's all I have for you.
I have a question if I could. It's been, since I've been on the MAC, Joshua Tree usually comes up pretty high on all the EMS and trauma calls. It's 51% of the calls for EMS and trauma that's of all the communities we've mentioned. Any thoughts on why that is, that
that thinks that so much is needed to serve Joshua Tree?
Well, keep in mind that most people will dial 911 for just about anything. So we have in those call responses, you could have somebody that's calling 911 for the sake of a nosebleed or stub toe to anything as critical as cardiac arrest. So what we really try and encourage, because of the draw on the EMS system, is certainly call 911 if you feel the need to or you want to be evaluated. But in a lot of cases, folks do have the capability and the means to which they can go to an urgent care facility for minor related medical incidents, and that would take a huge burden off of the call response in these communities. So it's really a matter of public education and getting folks, to realize what 911 is really needed for and what can be addressed through an urgent care facility to handle those minor related incidents.
Okay. Sorry, it was a kind of a roundabout answer. I'm not sure. Is that what you're saying is happening in Joshua Tree? That you're getting a lot of calls that perhaps we could better educate people in Joshua Tree to alleviate some of
I can't give you the specifics off of this report because there's so many subsections to the emergency medical response.
It wasn't necessarily specifics, but I mean, it just seems inordinately.
We're not unique to the situation here in Joshua Tree. Unfortunately, that spreads out to every community within San Bernardino County. And for an example, our call volume in Yucca Valley is probably twice, if not 3 times as much as Joshua Tree for the same types of calls. So we do try and educate those individuals when we go out and respond to those residents with regard to the need for the use of 911 or transport by ambulance. How effective is it? We typically see the same amount of call responses from one month to the next.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood what you said about the fire stations. Wonder Valley is being looked at for possible closure. Pioneer Townlanders and Johnson Valley will remain open, but we're looking to get more firefighters.
Yes, Wonder Valley is still being under review. The other communities, as you mentioned, those fire stations are not closing, but we will, in the future here, we're not recruiting for pay call firefighters any longer. What we're looking and hope to do in those communities is to get more volunteer support from the membership of the community to be involved in those programs that I was speaking of, to help staff those stations during the course of a disaster that will help the firefighters, get services out there without necessarily tying up the firefighters and keeping them available for the true emergencies that, such as fire suppression and addressing the medical responses during those times of call. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What can you tell me about the dump fire?
What can I tell you about the dump fire? Well, yeah, some of you may have seen the smoke that was out there a couple of weeks ago. We did have a fire at the dump. Unfortunately, with the amount of material out there, trying to identify an exact cause of the fire is pretty much slim to none. And in most cases, it's usually a result of spontaneous combustion through a mix of materials. So we had about 100 by 100 spot out there that had caught fire, which took us about 3 hours to overhaul and extinguish. In the process of that, when we had our first engine company arrive on scene, there was a pressurized vessel of some sort that exploded, and the projectile actually hit the side of our fire engine with such force it dented it, narrowly missing our engineer that was operating the apparatus. Had he been hit by that projectile, without a doubt, he would have been transported by a hospital for gosh knows what kind of injuries.
What was the projectile?
It's uncertain, but the projectile that came out of the fire was brass. It looked like a brass coupling off of the.
4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches?
It was about 3 inches in length, threaded on one end and open on the other end. Looked like it may have been connected to some type of a pressurized hose or a hose that's used under pressure. So it was just fortunate that our firefighter wasn't hurt. The engine was brand new, so it was kind of a shame to see it get dented. But yeah, the fire was relatively minor in nature and relatively quick to extinguish.
You got it out pretty fast.
Yeah.
And did it start up again the next day?
Not that I'm aware of, but there could have been a little bit of a rekindle from that. We put about 5,000 gallons of water on that initially to put it out. And we use a combination of water and foam for penetration. But sometimes you'll miss that little smoker in there that has a tendency to rekindle, and then they have to go out there and stir it up again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
That's Chief Mike Snow, and now Cal Fire's not here. We have Officer Simon Miller from the California Highway Patrol.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take long.
That was perfect, thank you, appreciate it. Hello, everybody, thanks for having me. I will take questions for Cal Fire, of course. We don't really have a lot for you from the CHP. Thanks for being here and part of your community. We appreciate anything we get from you and happy to give whatever it is we can give to you, our community. We love you and appreciate you. You guys have probably all.
Passing the hat?
No, there really is nothing. The striping project is well underway and has been. I'm sure you all were there at the ribbon cutting ceremony and loved it and have ridden your bicycle up and down several times by now. And if there's any questions about it, I'll be happy to try to answer them. But otherwise, it's been going, and Caltrans announced that the speed limit would be reduced to 40 miles an hour at some point. So working towards what everybody was hoping to have at, I think 35 was what they wanted, or 5 or 15 or whatever.
Optimistic.
We'll get there, whatever it is you want, 2 miles an hour at some point if you'd like. We're working towards it. Yes, there's a taker for 2, yeah.
I just wish people would do 45. Yeah. I mean,
We do too, yeah.
I've been known to do this, the window, because if I do a 45 and they're lying.
Yes,
See somebody get,
we of course do as well, and,
but I know you're spread that out. Just-
well, we are, but Joshua Tree is, near and dear to us, and we do patrol and enforce what we can when we're there, obviously. I put the radar trailer out several times, and then they started doing construction and stuff, so I didn't want it in the way of equipment and being more of a hazard than a help. So you'll see it again, and I continue to do whatever it is that you guys are wanting me to do within the confines of the law, of course, and happy to do it. Is there anything that anybody wants to know about specifically? Cal Fire included? Yes, sir.
I know there's been some confusion.
Excuse me, can you speak up so that they can, because this is being filmed,
You're on YouTube.
and so just at least to say as loud as you
You
can.
can borrow mine if you want.
I know that there's some confusion heading east out of Joshua Tree towards 29, because the last sign you see is 45 miles an hour, and then the 65 mile an hour signs are covered up.
Correct.
In fact, the one right in front of the station, it said 5 for a little while, because the cover had passed them off, so it said speed limit 5. So for a while, that's what I was saying. And I think that somebody posted on Facebook what's going on in Morongo Valley, that they got pulled over for driving too slow, because they were still going 45 as they reached the open highway between Joshua Tree and 29. So what is the speed limit right now? 60?
Currently, it's still 45 because they have covered those signs and they do have other construction projects they've been working on. However, this will probably confuse you even more. A good way just to think of it is maximum speed limits are set in the vehicle code for the type of roadway. So 2-lane undivided highways are 55 miles an hour unless they're posted differently. And if it's not 2-lane undivided highway, which the area you're talking about is not, those are 65 miles an hour. So if they've covered them up and there's really nothing going on, the maximum speed limits always do apply. So 65 miles an hour is, depending on what's going on, agreeable. So if it's 2 a.m. and there's nobody out there, and it's still a 65 mile an hour maximum speed limit that applies. If there's construction crews out and there's cones, dropping it down to 1 lane and stuff, then the 45 mile an hour extension is what they've done, and that would be the wise choice to make. Does that make sense, or is it worse for you now?
Yeah, I mean, it seems when you come out of town, everybody pretty much goes with the 65.
Yeah, out of habit and
Flow of traffic. And
sure.
including emergency vehicles that are heading towards
Right.
better. Not responding, just the normal rate of speed. So I think the confusion was the last time people saw us, still said it was 45.
And it is, and they left it that way on purpose, but unfortunately, the crews that do work don't come back out and take the garbage bag off the sign when they pack up for the weekend or whatever.
Right.
That's why I say that the maximum speed limits always apply. So if the crews aren't there and nobody else is there and all lanes are open and everything's good on a Saturday afternoon, 65, feel free. I don't think any CHP would pull you over and give you a hard time for that. That's just, I wouldn't do it. And, obviously if I wouldn't do it, nobody would, so. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I was at a meeting Saturday at our association in Landers, and there was a big debate going on about what the speed limit is on the dirt roads on this. They're 55, somebody said no, they're not 55.
Okay,
And people are driving 55 in some areas they shouldn't be.
sure.
What is the speed limit out there on the dirt roads?
Well, if you're talking about dirt roads in Landers, generally those are private property easements, so there is no speed limit on those roads. The only thing that applies to private property, there are some vehicle codes that apply. Those are just things like reckless driving and DUI and things of that nature. So, for example, in your own backyard, if it was 100 acres, you could do 1,000 miles an hour if you wanted, as long as you didn't hurt anybody. They're not controlled by anything. And then that's why most of those intersections don't have any stop signs or anything else. You just have to drive with care. Those are all easements. The county doesn't own them or improve them or have anything to do with them. So no enforceable speed limits in those instances. If it's an off-highway area that's for recreational vehicles and stuff, those do have speed limits that vary, typically 25 or 15. But for private property easements that look like roads and highways that really aren't, no speed limits. Just drive sensibly and, everybody be careful. Anybody else have anything I can help with?
So, are you saying that the roads that are on a regular pattern throughout the communities, the dirt roads that originally were attached to small tracks and were the easements, but since that time, they're driven over as though they were a public road, but these are not considered public roads?
Correct. They're not maintained by the county or the state or anybody else. They're just private property. Still
Right, but
easements.
the county doesn't necessarily maintain all their roads anyway.
They don't maintain them, but if they own them, then they do have speed limits that can apply. I can't apply a speed limit to your front yard, for example.
Okay.
That's what they fall under private property category. Nobody owns them, but they are easements, so people use them. People come with their own graders and grade them from time to time and care for them, but the county doesn't maintain them and
That's right.
has no say over them.
Okay, so people drive on them through the goodwill of the owners of the property?
No, the law says for easements that anybody can use them because that's what an easement is.
Okay, that's,
Yes, so yes, anybody can drive on them to get from, place to place and property to property, but the county has no say over them, nor does the state when it comes to applying
okay,
speed
in
limits
terms
and
of
things like that.
speed,
Right.
but,
Safety, certainly, there are laws that apply for safety, like I mentioned, reckless driving and drunk driving and all that stuff still does apply.
so easements, anybody can drive, but there's no law enforcement attached to it, nor does the county service them?
There is laws
But there
that
are
apply,
laws.
but not speed limits.
Right,
Speed
speed
limits, specific speed limits and maximum speed limits don't apply.
Okay,
If you were to drive 90 miles an hour down there and run somebody over, then yes, I would say you were reckless and
Then that's
and you would go to
reckless, right.
jail
Okay.
and things of that nature. Yeah.
that's a huge unknown throughout.
Right.
the
And some
desert.
people do put up their own makeshift signs that say 15 miles an hour or 20, but they don't have any law behind them.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nobody else?
So Officer Miller now, Sergeant Tyson Niles, Sheriff.
Working? How about now?
Yeah, switch it up.
How about now? Oh, there we go. I'm Sergeant Niles. I'm with the Morongo Basin Station. I'll be filling in tonight for Lieutenant Barta and Captain Jolie, who couldn't be here. They wanted me to talk about, mostly about the thefts of mail and stuff like that. Back in April, I want to say the end of April, April 28th, we were very fortunate. I think some citizens saw some people breaking into a mail truck in Yucca Valley. They were able to get us that information very quickly, and the deputies were able to locate that vehicle. We did a search warrant back at their motel, and we found a lot of mail. The problem is that people, they can do this at nighttime when, most of us are at work, at our jobs and stuff like that, and there's not a lot of people around. So really the private mailboxes that you have at your residences, it's really, we encourage you, to go to the post office, get a P.O. box, even though it happens, at those places as well too. All of our crimes that we've been reporting to or responding to are in front of somebody's house and having that stolen. In this particular instance, even the town of Yucca Valley was a victim of the mail theft. We found a lot of their stuff that we recovered. So we encourage you to, if you can, use a post office box. If not, just check your mailbox regularly. Even in the community where I live, my mailbox was broken into, and we were just lucky that we checked our mail, before it became nighttime and the underbelly of society came out and stole everyone else's mail. So, but just keep that in mind. As far as anything else, I don't think we had anything major to report on. But I know Pat had some questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. Teresa's not here tonight, but there's been a number of calls from Wonder Valley to the sheriff's office with people who are shooting high-powered rifles, not, sort of the AK type, in their yard, which is not legal, and the sheriff has indeed responded to them. But I think it might be useful to know what sort of, just if you could go over where you can do what, and I don't think anywhere it's legal to shoot those type of weapons.
It is. So there's certain weapons, obviously, that are illegal to possess in California, and you wouldn't be able to shoot those weapons. The easiest way is to go on to into Google and type in shooting areas for San Bernardino County, There's a large map that'll come up, and it's gonna have all these different colors everywhere on it, and a little legend off to the bottom right. The roads aren't necessarily marked as much as it would be if you were to go to, Google Maps or something like that, but some of the major intersections are. So as you zoom in on this map, you should get a rough idea approximately where you're at, and that will tell you exactly what type of gun is allowed to be shot in that particular area. So I know, like Pat and I were speaking earlier, one of the main areas that we respond out to is the BLM land out in the Wonder Valley area. So a lot of people go to one particular range, which is right near Valley Vista, Pinto Mountain area. So the area where most people are shooting, that is designated for shotgun only, but a lot of people go into there and they shoot, the rifles and, other weapons. If they were to go just a little bit north from there, all of that's illegal, but this one particular area where everyone seems to be going and shooting, that's just shotgun only. As far as your property, you can shoot on your property, you can shoot guns, but that has to be a certain distance away from other homes and stuff like that. So there's, as you get into the tighter communities, you're not going to be allowed to shoot your weapons, but as you get out into more of the open desert, if you're shooting in a safe direction and you have backdrops and different things like that, you would be allowed. If you're questioning whether or not your particular piece of property is okay to be shooting a particular weapon, you can call the sheriff's department. We can try and respond out. Obviously, we have many calls for service. That would obviously fall on the lower priority, so it may take you a long time, to get somebody out to evaluate it. Or you can set up an appointment with me. I'm the admin sergeant at the station, and come in. That's probably going to get your quickest response, and we can look at that.
Well, I think that the map shows Wonder Valley as shotgun only.
Okay.
And these people were definitely not shooting shotguns, the photographic evidence,
Yeah. No.
for one. So that, you responded, the sheriff's office did respond. So I would be interested to know in the future what kind of ticket they get, what it costs you if you...
Right. So like we spoke earlier, I don't have the bail schedule or the bail fees in front of me. That would be something that is set by the court, that is all public information. I didn't know that was going to be a question tonight, so I don't have that here with me. Again, I can get you what it is, but there is a fine. For any crime, there is a fine, depending on how much it is, though. That's set by the bail schedule, and then ultimately the judge gets to make the final decision.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any
Yes,
more?
ma'am.
You might want to put on your Facebook page for the sheriff's department, there's an app, you can do a USPS postal service.
Okay.
And I hadn't done it yet, but I was told, so I would give the meeting, that they scan your mail and it comes over your email, and it shows you every letter that they put, that you received the way in your mailbox.
Oh, okay. I had not heard of that. So if you didn't hear, she had mentioned that there's an app that you can get on your phone for the United States Postal Service, and they'll scan you every piece of mail that you're supposed to be getting, which would be a good idea when you go to the mail and all of a sudden you realize that you're missing some of those items. You would know that you were a victim of a theft before something worse happens.
If you get a locking mailbox, obviously the person who delivers the mail needs to have a key, as well as you need to have a key. And
That would be a question for the post office, but I bet you're right.
Actually, many of the locking mailboxes have a little flip door that the postman can get into. But once you close that door, the mail falls down into the locked area.
Okay.
But keep in mind, the mail that was stolen out of mine, community mailbox, it was locked. There's a design flaw in these that allow them to easily pop them open. So still make sure you're checking your mail regularly. Or like I said, if you can get something at the post office, that's probably the safer bet.
Okay, thank you. And we have Morongo Basin Ambulance Association. You're new. Thank you. Welcome. Robert Brad here.
Good evening, everyone. There you go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Bradbury. I'm the operations supervisor for Morongo Basin Ambulance. And I just wanted to fill you guys in on some numbers we ran last month. You have to keep in mind our numbers are going to be significantly higher than the fire department's. A couple reasons why is we transport out at local area hospitals. We have 2 hospitals up here, the Marine Corps Base and High Desert Medical Center. So for Joshua Tree last month, we ran 229 calls. Again, that call volume is higher also because of the hospitals, and then also we do private events. We do medical standbys for events in the area, so there can be an emergency call that's generated outside the 911 system, but that we still handle. For the City of 29 Palms, we respond to 199 calls. Wonder Valley were 8. Town of Yucca Valley was 21. Morongo Valley was 32. Landers was 16. Pioneer Town 5. We went all the way out to Amboy twice, and Johnson Valley twice, and then Rimrock once. Any questions?
Do you transport all Morongo Valley to Desert Regional? Or do you sometimes bring them?
We can sometimes bring them up here. It varies on the person's request and their condition. If it warrants going to a STEMI center, which is if they have a cardiac issue, then we can take them down to Desert Regional, which would be appropriate. However, what we found sometimes for people who don't have transportation, keeping them in the basin where there's public transport or they have friends and family that can come and get them, sometimes easier. So if they request to come up to High Desert and Joshua Tree, we'll honor that request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, that is the end of the public safety reports, and now we will have reports by members of the MAC. You want to get your mic?
Okay. We had a great start to Grub Steak Days with the Pony Express mail delivery to Pie Town. We combined it with a brownie bake-off, which was very well attended. On June 3rd, Pie Town held a community yard sale at the OK Corral. And just in case you think all we do in Pioneer Town is hold cooking contests, the chili throwdown takes place on July 1st at 3 p.m. on Main Street. Everybody welcome. Come and taste the chilies.
Did you want to make an announcement about the Steve?
No, you can do that. You did not.
Then you got to remind me the date, because my head's too full of it.
June 26th.
5 to 7?
You want to do it when it's fresh?
Okay, on June 26th, from 5 to 7 at the Yucca Valley Community Center, there will be a Q&A on the healthy, it's 6 and 7:30? Oh, 6 to 7:30, thank you, write that down, on the California, Healthy California bill, and that is, it's California is going through it right now. It's gone through the Senate, it's gone through appropriations, and now it's in the Assembly, but that would be single payer all the way, and it would cover everything. So there's a lot of questions to ask on how it's afforded and whatever, but right now, as I've been reading, California is still top of the line for Obamacare, so that's 6 to 7:30. Ah, he's got it. There it is. SB 562, community event, the Healthy California Act, single payer, affordable health care for all Californians. So we have keynote speaker, Ellen O'Rourke, and Jimmy from Palm Desert, who will do Q&A, and then local community members will tell their stories as well. So it's an important thing to know about before it goes continuing on in the State Assembly. Since thank you very much. I personally am working on the reauthorization of the Off-Highway Motor Vehicle Act, which goes through the California state parks, but through the grants program covers law enforcement and restoration and a number of other things on public lands, and also is the grant program that the sheriff applies to as well, so that they can have sheriffs that can look to enforce the laws. And so that's, we got that through the appropriations, and we have it through the Senate, and now it's in the Assembly. So probably by the next time, I'll know more.
Copper Mountain Mesa. We are going to continue through the summer to have breakfast the first Saturday of the month. We will not be having the first Tuesday bingo, will be dark, mainly because I will not be in the area. We'll restart that in September. What's important in Joshua Tree is that this coming Saturday here at the community center is going to be Summer Splash, and that is a joint effort between the Park and Rec here, the Rotary Club of Joshua Tree, and the Morongo Basin Healthcare District. They're going to have a color run. We're going to have food. We're going to have some vendors. There's going to be a live broadcast in the morning. Then inside we're going to have on tap for music. So it'll be kind of a fun thing. It'll be from 9 until 2 this coming Saturday, and it's the Summer Splash. Thanks.
Morongo Valley. I don't have anything from Morongo Valley specifically, but I just wanted to ask all the other board members, if we need to bring up the national monuments, Santa Snow, and the other ones, and reiterate ourselves and to the Board of Supervisors, because they're being looked at again by the government, if we need to put our support again toward those things, and perhaps we could put it on next month's agenda.
Next month's agenda will be too late. The final for writing about it will be July 10. And if you would like, and it would be wonderful if you would, to support Sand to Snow, Mojave Trails National Monument, Castle Peaks.
What is
and
July 10th? What's happening?
That's the end of the comment period.
Oh, okay.
And, but you can easily do that through the Mojave Desert Land Trust website. And it's no longer so easy to comment for the federal government because they keep it all hidden. They've changed all of their web pages. So go to the Morongo, the Mojave Desert Land Trust has a very active site. They're also going to be having a rally in Barstow. I think it's this Saturday, and then one in Indio. So there's a big push behind it. And certainly Secretary Zinke needs to know that we value our national monuments, and don't think of making them smaller, please.
For Yucca Mesa, just two things coming up. On June 17th, we're having our next swap meet. That's this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Yucca Mesa Community Center. And on June 23rd is our, that's a Friday, is our next potluck at 6 p.m. And we usually have speakers there. Thank you.
Dawn Johnson from Landers. Can you hear me? It's on. I'll speak loud. I just have one important announcement. There will be no fireworks show on July 3rd in Landers this year. They had some complications last year, and then also there's some competition with other shows that are going on, so it just seems to be a really busy time and not enough people to be able to handle it. So we decided to have something else instead on Labor Day weekend, a fireworks show on September 2nd. And there will be a DJ and hot dogs, a taco cart, some various vendors, but we will have more details to follow. That's all I have.
Great. Does anybody have any comments for the good of the? Yes.
I have a question. I went on the Social Security website to find out what it takes to be disabled. They talk about being disabled, and then they say go here to find out how to qualify to be disabled, and there's no page. Where do you go from there? who do you contact? How do you take care of stuff? They're taking pages down, like the Park and Rec pages and things like that. It's like, what do you do?
How about going to the Social Security office in
Well,
Yucca
Yucca
Valley?
Valley.
I think that's what I would do. I would find a person to talk to.
Okay.
There is an 800 or 877-48666 number.
Okay.
I think if you just Google it, you come up with a number, and they do answer.
All right, thank you.
All right, I would say the meeting is now adjourned at 7:21.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes.